All right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. I've got a couple of interesting stories for you guys today. The first story, you guys might have guessed it by now since so many of you have tagged me in this post. Blessing Awodibu, giving his latest physique update, receiving over 500,000 views in the first day alone that he posted it. He has the caption there, daily vacuum and breathing training. And one of the things that really impressed a lot of people here was not only the vacuum pose, because keep in mind, Blessing is a men's open bodybuilder, and typically a vacuum pose isn't something that's all that common in men's open bodybuilding. It's usually more reserved for classic physique athletes, so it's always impressive to see a men's open bodybuilder that's able to do a vacuum, let alone someone that is in men's open daily training the vacuum pose. But the other thing that really impressed me about this update from Blessing was also his insane proportions. I don't think a lot of people talk about this enough. And I know that angles and posing, they play a pretty big factor in how someone's proportions look, especially in videos on Instagram. But one of the things I've always liked about Blessing's physique, as you guys have seen from the shots of him from the back, he's got a really wide, dense, thick back. And the big advantage of having a wide, thick back like that, it's going to further accentuate your V-taper. Now, Blessing already had a relatively small waist, but as wide as his back is, and you can see it in this front lat spread here, look how that makes his waist look even smaller. Some people called that back in the day, the phrase was wasp-waisted. If you look at pictures of like Brian Buchanan, an old school bodybuilder from like the 80s era, Brian, he had a waist very similar to Blessing. He had a look very similar to Blessing, although Blessing has a lot more mass than Brian Buchanan did. I just think overall it's very refreshing to see a men's open bodybuilder not only being able to hit a vacuum pose, but training and preparing for it, doing the breathing exercises. And I really do like the proportions that Blessing has. Again, I've said this before, I would like to see more shots and more updates of his legs because, like I said, his big rival here, Nick Walker, he's got really, really good legs. So, you know, bodybuilding's not just an upper body show. So it's going to be interesting to see them on stage together because, like I said, one of the interesting things about their rivalry is the contrast in their physique is no secret. They have two very different physiques. They're both big. They're both pretty massive bodybuilders. You could probably consider both of them to be mass monsters in one way or another, but they both have very different looks to their physique. And this video from Blessing is a perfect example of how different and unique his proportions really are, accompanied with the size that Blessing does carry. Now, again, I've said this before. I want to talk about Justin Rodriguez. He's another guy competing in the New York Pro. And I think it would be a mistake to just make this the Blessing and Nick show because they're kind of the two biggest names right now. They're the two loudest voices. They've had the most back and forth. So a lot of people are automatically making this the Nick and Blessing show. There's other guys that are going to be in this show, Justin and Hassan Mustafa that we know of. There might be some other names in there as well. But again, Blessing's pro debut is going to be the week prior at the Indy Pro. So while Blessing does have these crazy proportions, he's got a small waist, he looks phenomenal on Instagram. We should keep in mind, this is going to be Blessing's second show ever as a pro, and the same is true for Nick. Nick's pro debut was at the Chicago Pro last year, and this show, this New York Pro, is only going to be his second show as a pro. Same for Blessing. So to automatically assume that these two are going to win the show, I think would be a disservice to the other bodybuilders competing there. For example, Justin Rodriguez, who posted this physique update today, hitting a side chest where he's showing off the kind of condition that he's in, showing off some pretty impressive vascularity, the separation in his legs. You can see his glutes are starting to come in. And we are in April now, so we're about, a month and a half away from the New York Pro right now. So Justin is another guy who I think people might be writing off because of all this noise and hype around Blessing and Nick. But I think it's important to remember there's other dangerous bodybuilders that are going to be in this lineup. Justin is one of them. So don't write him off. Now, speaking of the New York Pro, I wanted to give a shout out here to a bodybuilder by the name of Bola Ojex, who was also preparing for that show. And unfortunately, I just learned yesterday that he was actually injured during his preparation, and it was a pretty substantial injury. He actually tore both quadriceps squatting during contest prep for the New York Pro. So now he's in the hospital, and he's going to be 2 months apparently in a wheelchair, according to the post that I saw from Sean Ray. So I wanted to give a shout out to Bola Ojex. That's definitely, this isn't something small. 2 quadricep tears is a majorly debilitating bodybuilding injury, and certainly if you're a bodybuilder, that's going to be a huge setback in your career because that's a big, very important body part. So shout out to Bola. I hope to see him to be able to get his career back on track, to recover quickly, and jump right back into the swing of things with a full and speedy recovery. And now a word from our sponsors over at Labrada Nutrition.
Come on.
Now, next up in the news, an interesting story here from Dorian Yates. So Dorian Yates apparently had a falling out with London Real. If you guys remember back maybe 4 years ago, there's a really good interview with Dorian Yates on this channel called London Real. They did a really in-depth interview with the post-bodybuilder version of Dorian Yates, the kind of introspective, spiritual, retired version of Dorian. It was one of the first times you got a really good look into Dorian's life outside of bodybuilding and beyond bodybuilding. I believe that interview has over 1 million views. It was a really successful interview. A lot of people became familiar with Dorian actually through that interview. So apparently Dorian and Brian, who conducts those interviews, they had some sort of falling out, and they were supposed to go live together and do another interview recently, and Dorian apparently declined to do that interview at the last minute, I guess. And here's the reason he gave why on his Instagram page.
Hey, what's up, guys? Lovely sunny day here in Spain. Just giving a message to notify everybody that I was doing a Instagram live this evening at 6 o'clock UK time, 7 o'clock Spanish time, with Brian Rose from London Real. Of course, I've been on Brian's show a few times. And I had a lot of people contacting me about the donations made to the Freedom platform, including a lot of friends of mine that donated money there. And they had a lot of questions they felt were not answered. And also people notifying me about Brian's business courses they were not happy with, and so on. So I wanted to kind of bring that up with Brian and have a chat with him on the call about that, and he wasn't happy with that. He didn't want to do that, so we mutually decided to cancel the call, because if my name's associated with Brian and London Real and things are going on that people are not happy with, and some of those people are friends of mine, they donated money and they didn't feel that their questions were answered. So as Brian's not willing to talk about that, he just wants to talk about his campaign from there, I didn't think it was wise to go ahead with the call and associate my name with something people are not happy with. So I won't be doing the call this evening with Brian, and that's the reason why, guys. And thanks for those people that wrote in and had their, doubts and their questions. I tried to address it, but Brian's not happy to do that for whatever reason. I'm not saying it's good or bad, but I don't think I could go ahead with the call without bringing up the elephant that's in the room anyway. So no call with Brian from London Real tonight, guys. All right, so sorry about that if you're looking forward to it and you're disappointed, but those are my reasons. All right, guys, you have yourself a great day. Ciao.
And the final story that I have for you guys today, IFBB Elite Pro Michal Krizo won a major show this past weekend, the IFBB Elite Pro Siberian Power Pro Show. He won the overall at that show in a pretty decisive fashion. And I did a pretty in-depth video yesterday on Michal Krizo, so if you have not seen that video, please check it out. I posted it like super late last night, just talking about his career and talking about how I believe he's one of the best bodybuilders currently outside of the IFBB Pro League. Again, if you guys didn't know, there's a split. There's two different IFBBs. The IFBB that you're familiar with through the Olympia, through the Arnold Classic, that's the IFBB Pro League, and the IFBB Elite Pro, which is more international competitions that aren't affiliated with these competitions that you're familiar with. And that is where Michal competes. And I've made the argument in that video that Michal is one of the best bodybuilders outside of our IFBB. And him winning this show in Siberia is further proof of that. I think he's got a tremendous physique, and I think he's got everything it takes to hang with the top 10 currently on the Mr. Olympia stage if he were ever to somehow be able to cross that gap, cross that bridge over to our IFBB. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comment section below on Michael Krizo's physique. Now, the final story I want to talk about today was there was a very cool collab that Brian Shaw recently did. I've got some footage here that was sent to me between Brian and Dustin Poirier, the UFC fighter that recently beat Conor McGregor. So they kind of did this collab. It's over on Brian's channel now. And they actually got in the octagon and went at it. So that was a pretty cool video. If you guys want to check that out, go over to Brian's channel and check out the full video. It was a really good video. I highly recommend you guys checking it out. So that's going to wrap it up for the video today, guys. I hope you did, in fact, enjoy it. Please give it a thumbs up if you did enjoy it. Please subscribe to this channel if you have not subscribed yet already. As always, I love you guys. Appreciate you guys. Nick Strength and Power signing out.